Yo, what's going on, everybody? What's happening on this Saturday evening, October 24th? We are tomorrow makes it a week. How are you guys holding up since we last got our finale last Sunday? I'm doing okay. How are you guys doing? Are you guys missing that we're not gonna get Lovecraft tomorrow? I know I'm gonna definitely miss it, but how are we doing tonight, everybody? Welcome to tonight's stream. This is our kind of finale discussion, our series as a whole discussion, our theories about a potential season 2 discussion, and everything in between. So I am more than honored to be here tonight with you all. I said it in my review last week, the last 10 weeks, a little over 2 months covering this show has been incredible. I love the conversations we had in the last 2 months, the interactions we've had, the kind of friendships we built offline and online. It's just been an incredible journey. And again, can't be more thankful for everyone that's been part of the journey. And like I said, this is the last, the show's ending, but the conversation is just beginning more or less with tonight's discussion. And I have another special video for you guys that I'm finishing up tonight regarding my 10 top episodes of season 1 of Lovecraft. So that's another little video I'm going to put together for you guys tomorrow. So I'm waiting on my guest. He should be coming in a little bit. Crowd favorite Shalon will be joining me tonight, and we're going to be talking about everything about Lovecraft and breaking all down. So he should be in here in a little bit. But in the meantime, let's see who we got in the chat. Let's see. Good evening, Key. How we doing? Mel, what's going on? Welcome. My main man Jay, how we doing, Jay? Hope you're doing good, man. We got Tara in the building. What's going on? How we doing? Purple Queen, how you doing? Nick flexing, what's going on, Nick? Oh man, Nick, I'm glad you was able to make it tonight, man, because I loved a lot of your comments in last week's comment section, man. So I'm glad you're able to make it. So I would love to get your thoughts on the finale and the show and all that stuff. James, how's everyone? Has everyone ever seen a Lovecraft baby shirt? No, I haven't. James, what's that? What's the baby shirt? Short film? Is it a short film? No, I didn't know it was a short film. Was it HBO produced, Misha Green produced, or something like a fan film? Let me know in the chat. I'll check it out. Jay, doing good. Hey, what's going on, Justin? Hey everybody, how we doing? Welcome. Can't wait. Yeah, I've been excited. I've been waiting for this all night, ladies and gentlemen, all night, and excited to talk about it with you all. So again, just waiting for my guests to swing by, and we're gonna have a good discussion. So and like I said, guys, let me know, man. Tomorrow we'll make it officially 1 week since the show has ended. Have you guys rewatched the entire series? Have you guys rewatched the finale? Let me know what you guys. So for me personally, I've rewatched the finale yet again, which makes it 4 times for me now. And I plan on eventually watching the series as a whole, probably in the next few weeks or so. We got The Mandalorian coming up, and there's really not too many other shows coming out. So I'm going to rewatch the season as in its entirety, probably in the next few weeks or so. But let me know if you guys have, like I said, revisited the season as a whole since it last aired last week. Have you guys rewatched the finale a couple times, and where are you guys at regarding just an emotional standpoint of what we got from this incredible series? The finale, we'll talk about it tonight. The finale, some people loved it. I was one of those people that was kind of, a little lukewarm on it. I've come around to it, seen it 4 times now. But I still will never forget how groundbreaking this show was for television, and the stories told and the performances and all the incredible stuff that we've never really seen with this type of cast and crew behind it. With Misha Green being the lead, the showrunner and all that stuff. So it's just incredible. So here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend himself. We got Shalon, man. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Good. Thank you for joining me tonight, man. Like I said, you are a crowd pleaser, a fan favorite. So I'm glad you was able to join us tonight, man.
No, glad to be here. It's always great to be on these live streams with you.
No doubt, man. And hey, for people that might not be familiar with your content, what's your channel about, if you want to let the people know where they can find your content and a little bit about your channel, man.
Yeah, you guys can find me all over YouTube. I said all over YouTube. You guys can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter at the Binge Zone. Pretty much what we cover: movies, TV shows. We go into deep dives, looking beyond just the surface level of the show, tackling the story, the meaning behind pretty much everything that is film.
No doubt, man. Awesome. So I was talking to the people in the chat, man. How have you been since we've last seen Lovecraft this last week, man? How you been holding up? Oh, did we lose him for a second? Here, we'll get him back in a second, guys. Just setting up his camera and everything. We'll get. Oh, there he is. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, no, I've been going through withdrawals because, man, like I look forward to every Sunday watching Lovecraft and going through just the roller coaster of emotions, the journey, and everything.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be missed, man. It's gonna be missed. Oh, yeah. I don't know what's gonna fill that hole besides maybe the Mandalorian, but that's on a whole nother kind of level as far as entertainment goes. But yeah, man, just wanted to break it all down with you tonight. Let me say we got some other people in the chat. How we doing, Alicia? We got Christian. Hello. What's JB watching? Watching you while watching the World Series. Are you a baseball fan, Shalon? Do you watch baseball?
One time I went to a baseball game, I fell asleep. I was out. It's not for me.
I used to be into baseball a lot, man. My dad was a Yankees fan, and he kind of inherent that. I kind of inherit that fandom, and it's been a while since I followed baseball. But I guess go Dodgers, because I don't know. I'm not too big on the Tampa Bay Rays from my days being a Yankees fan. But yeah, do you think? Oh yeah, we'll definitely talk about that, Christian, for sure a little bit later. Just watch the finale. So Shalon, how many times have you seen the finale, man?
I've seen the finale twice, and I've seen I've scrubbed through it a few times. Watch it all the way through twice, but I've scrubbed through certain scenes quite a few times.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen it a total of 4 times now, and I think
all the way through.
All the way through, yeah. The first 2 times was for the just to see it, review it, and then the second time I kind of rewatched it because I wasn't a fan. We haven't spoken since the finale happened. I wasn't a fan of the finale, but I've kind of come around to it a little bit more. There's still some issues I have with it, which we'll talk about tonight. But I've seen it a total of 4 times. But Gary brings up, are you gonna watch this this doc that they have put together, like the behind the scenes? Okay.
Yeah, I saw Misha promote on her Twitter. I'm like, I gotta check this out. I think it's on the 26th.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, this Monday, as Gary says. Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see what they do. Hopefully, I don't know. That would be a perfect time. I mean, it is pretty late, like 11:45. I don't know if they'll drop a bomb on us to be like season 2's coming in 2 years, but it'll be pretty interesting. They give us a little sneak peek of what they have planned. Nick's rewatched it and watched the Buffy finale. Awesome. That's a great show.
What was season 5? Which one was that one? I used to love Buffy.
Oh, same here. I couldn't even tell you what there's so many epic seasons.
I got his soul back.
Maybe I couldn't even tell you, man. I have to catch up on the last 3. Okay, so yeah, YB, this is going to be full spoilers, man. So definitely catch up and then maybe watch this replay, man. Or you can join the conversation if you're not too caught up on spoilers, man. A damn entitlement. Been tripping with her. I'm so sorry. Nothing personal. Just need to die. Oh yeah, we'll talk about Christina and all that stuff. So man, we got a lot of people in chat, guys. Make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Shalon, his information is in the link below. And what does James say? The Lovecraft Baby short film was directed by Ralph. So yeah, some cat. Okay, have you heard of this? Are you familiar with this baby short story? I'm gonna have to check it out, James. Is it on YouTube or something? But has some cast members. I got the cast members in there too. Okay.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to check that out. This is my first time hearing this, James. So I don't even know what's this about. I appreciate the insight, man. But all right, man, let's start the discussion. So we're just going to jump right into the finale. Now, I know I've covered it on my channel as well as you. So just kind of briefly, if you want to kind of fill the people in on your overall takeaway from the finale, starting off, I guess, with your positives, and then we'll transition into some of the negatives of the finale, if you have any.
Okay. The finale, the positive takes of the finale. Overall, I like that the finale was able to tie in all the plot threads that I thought were left dangling, because I had no idea how they're going to use Gia and what her role was. The fact that the thing that Hannah was whispering throughout the season, we finally found out what that was.
Right.
Burning house. I love the fact that they brought in Grandma Hattie into the finale. I thought that was like that moment was powerful, but I just thought it was just for that episode, if you will. And I just like the fact that a few things came to full circle, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And I actually enjoyed the fact that they were able to weave a lot of the, even Hippolyta's, the homie training paid dividends in the bridge when they were fighting. You could see that she was the only capable fighter on the bridge.
Right.
Like, things that were actually tied together. Like, oh, you guys actually remembered some of this stuff.
No doubt, no doubt. Now I'm kind of right there with you in regards to the satisfaction of the finale there, and we'll get into the negatives in a little bit. But I think for me, emotionally speaking, it hit me. The emotional beat stuck, especially when we come down to seeing Tick, sacrificing himself. A lot of people are connecting his story to the story of Jesus, which may lead into, his death and resurrection if we do get that season 2, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But, that hit me, and seeing Montrose, come on, Tick, get up, Tick. That Michael K. Williams got me in that moment.
That scene right there killed me.
It got me too, man. I did
like Montrose loves his son.
Yeah, I did a live stream, like a watch along that night, and I didn't want to cry, man, but I teared up on camera, man. It got me, and like I said, that was my third time watching an episode, and I was still kind of choked up in that moment. So I thought the emotional the emotional moments kind of resonated with me. The only stuff, I guess, kind of transitioning to some of the negatives with the finale is I want more time in the ancestral plane. Like, I wanted to kind of, it was very interesting to learn something so kind of mythological and kind of within this lore of kind of how Hannah creates a safe haven for her ancestors. I wish we would have spent more time there, especially when it comes to Dora. Did you have some thoughts on the ancestral plane, man? How'd you kind of take that new kind of mythology?
My thing with that was I suspected throughout that Hannah was like a guard. I think we talked about it in our mid-season thing. Like, I felt like she was a guardian angel for her family. I wish they would have gotten more into it, like you said, with Dora. How did Dora? What happened to her ultimately? Because we still don't know how she died, and she's just
someone
there.
had mentioned that they might have said a sickness. In one of the comments I read, someone said they might have brought up a sickness, but I don't know when they said that. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Not that at all. And I would have loved to see, like, because she was there. I mean, she's interacted with everyone of their bloodline because they all have the magic. So I would have loved to see what constitutes you going to spend your time there, because Hattie was there, Dora was there, like who chooses and picks and chooses who goes there. And I wonder if Tick is also going there because he did sacrifice himself, and it's like, I wish we would have got more on that, because I think that concept, like a safe haven ancestral plane, is amazing as a concept.
Yeah, I said it in my review. It reminded me very much of T'Chaka and kind of the lore of Black Panther.
Yes.
Which makes me kind of wonder, I guess it's kind of going into the finale, maybe a little bit. I don't know how you felt on the whole bringing Titus back and getting off his flesh. But like, so I guess we're to interpret, and correct me if I'm wrong, but once they kind of got him, Hannah, Dora, and Hattie were released from the ancestral plane, right? Was that what that kind of seance was?
Yeah, I think they were able to move on. If you
right, so like, I wonder. So
I thought it was
kind of freezing up on us, stuck in the ancestral plane himself, ladies and gentlemen. He's kind of freezing up on it
because that could because I was like, are they released?
Oh. Hey, Shalom, I'm gonna take you out for a second, man, and bring you back into the chat, man. Let me take you out for a second. I'll bring you right back in. It looks like it might be a little bit of internet connection or something like that. So we'll wait till he gets. Oh wait, is he situated? Hold on.
Yes, that's
there.
That's my fault. I have 2 Wi-Fi connections. Okay. That's my fault.
Oh, no worries. But I'm sorry. What were you saying about the ancestral plane?
No, I felt like
and Titus and all that.
It felt like they were released, but I'm trying to figure out if that was a haven for them. Was that voluntary that they got there, or were they trapped there? Because I'm confused as to why they needed to release. Because were they trapped, or was that voluntary? Because it sounded voluntary, but then it seemed like letting release them, and I'm like, were they bound to that realm?
Right. And then I guess another thing too, I mean, of course, we're going to see Hannah. We're going to see Hannah, we're going to see Hattie, and we're going to see Dora. But I wonder, obviously the women of the family have been like the strong pivotal points, a la, Letty now carrying on this burden. But I wonder, we didn't see any men in the ancestral plane. So I don't know if Tick, is he going to go there? Is his soul, spirit, his essence of sorts are going to go to the ancestral plane? Or is it just it's now gone since, you know, the creator of the place, Hannah, was released. There's something I'm kind of curious about, man.
Yes, same here. Like you said, I didn't see any men, so it got me wondering. Like, how has it been a matriarchy that passes down from mother to offspring? But then at the same time, it's weird because Tick is the one who passed on George to Letty. So, like you said, there are no men. So how does that work in general?
Yeah, and that's and going back to this kind of the beginning of the conversation regarding some of my negative thoughts of the finale was, again, and might be a minor thing for some people, but I think when you introduce something like an ancestral plane, it should be more than the first 10 minutes of the episode, and we don't revisit it again. So I thought that's one thing that comes to mind. Another thing, and we'll talk about the characters in a little bit, just kind of break them down. But how did you feel the character being killed off screen, Ruby being killed off screen? Did you have any issues with that? Not seeing the moment of her dying at the hands of Christina?
Me personally, no, but I know a lot of people did. They like the handling of Ruby, but I personally didn't have an issue with Ruby being off screened because while Ruby was a prominent character, I wouldn't say she was a lead character, if you will.
Right.
I feel like the lead characters were Tick, Montrose, Letty, Hippolyta, and Dee, like the immediate family, and Christina being the antagonist. But I could see why some people. But then again, I personally don't think Ruby's dead because Christina made it a point to say that these women are in a coma. Yeah, and they made a point to show us Ruby being put in the bed. So I don't think she's dead per se. So I didn't have a problem with Ruby's passing because I called Ruby dying like weeks ago. Like. So I didn't have a problem with that because I saw the character arcs like with TV shows. Like you tend to see like I'm sure you can attest to that too. Like when you're watching our TV shows, you can see a character's arc and see where it's going.
Right. I mean, she did go down this path of making a deal with the devil per se, and we'll talk about Christina, how we feel about her as maybe an anti-villain or hero, maybe in some people's eyes, but. The only thing I would say about how I felt about the Ruby death, and again, guys, let us know in the chat what you guys took as the ancestral plane, how Ruby was handled, her death off scene. But I know you said you didn't find her to be necessarily like a lead character, which she wasn't. I mean, Jonathan Majors, like you said, Letitia, Montrose, they're definitely the three, even Christina to a source, but I mean, we did spend an entire episode on Ruby, on her metamorphosis and her kind of having her coming of identity of sorts or loss of identity within an episode and throughout the entire season. So I really, you mentioned it, I don't think she's dead. If we do get that season 2, it does make you wonder how are they going to be able to find Ruby in this place because Letty doesn't know the location of the house, but you're assuming she has magic now, so she might be able to have a magic spell to kind of locate where her sister is, but. I do wish we would have saw that moment where Christina sees the switch, sees the betrayal, and not kills her, but put her in this coma, this coma state that she has William in. So I wish we would have gotten maybe a little bit more marinating that scene a little bit longer. Which overall, as far as negativities with this episode, I just wish we were. I wish the episode was like an hour and a half long. If I'm being honest, so it was a little bit longer.
It would have been an hour long, but like there's a comment that James Robinson said. Being comatose off screen was necessary for the twist, and I agree because if we saw the struggle and we saw Ruby lose, and then Ruby just shows up with the potion, it's gonna be like, that's not Ruby. We saw her, whatever. So I feel in a sense, I agree with that as well. Because
that's a good point.
I jaw dropped and there was a twist. I was like, oh, that's not Ruby.
Yeah, and to that point, which James, you make up a good point as well. I mean, that does take away the element of surprise, which for me personally, and I said in my review, the element of surprise to me when I knew it wasn't Ruby was number one, when we see her give Letty that vial of blood. It was all the way full. When we saw it, and when Christina and Ruby were having a conversation, it was like barely any in there. So that was kind of like an inkling. And then some people had noticed when they were in the car, when they were singing the Shaboom, which I kind of really enjoyed that song. And that moment was really great, even though we know that wasn't really Ruby embracing the family. But a lot of people had mentioned that Ruby said, I guess, in episode 1 that she hated that song. So the fact that she was now singing the song kind of was allusion to her not being who she really is. But I guess I see what you and James are saying in regards to being killed off screen, but I wish there was a little bit better payoff, if I'm being honest. I'm not a fan of the off-screen of killing of characters. Just me personally.
Me neither. Like I just feel like if, like you said, even though I said she's not a main character, the fact that I spent enough time with her, like getting off screen is like.
Yeah, Nick. So yeah, Ruby deserved better. Which, speaking of deserve, man, Gia, me and you both talked about it last week. That episode 6, Meet Me in Daegu, is one of our favorite episodes, which we'll talk about some of those a little bit later. But I think Gia, man, how did you think? Did you feel the deserving nature of Gia coming through in the clutch? Did you feel like she kind of had a good kind of conclusion to her story of sorts?
I think so. I would have liked a little bit more with her, but
yeah.
I did enjoy it. And the finale, the last few episodes of Gia returning kind of had me raise my stock of episode 6 some more, because like I was confused as to where they were going with this, and the fact that they introduced her, like I wish she would have done more, like on the bridge. I wish she would have helped fight off those things, but like overall, the fact that they still tied in the fact that she was to become the darkness in the end, and I was like, okay, like I enjoyed that they made her do something instead of just standing around.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I like the scene that they have, that Tick and Gia have in the bar, right? Even before they talk, I love how Gia told the white man, like, oh, "Are you willing to die to have sex with me?" Again, I think Jamie Chung was just great in that role, and I think it really kind of brought out some of her acting sensibility that I've really never seen in anything of her work before. So I really thought she killed it, but. I love the scene that we get with Tick and Gia, because they get somewhat of that closure. Because again, when we saw Gia last, I believe it was episode 8, where Tick told her pretty much to go kick rocks. Yeah, to go kick rocks and don't ever show back up here again. So I like that he came to his senses. This is your first love, man. Yes, it ended, I won't say tragically, it ended pretty weird. You see your first love tails coming out of her body. But I like that. Through in this traumatic moment that they kind of, or I should say he shared with her, because it was normal to her, but this moment they have, they're forever bonded, and that she's part of the family. So even though I think that they had a little bit more chemistry than, which we talked about last week, than Tick and Letty, but I still think it was nice for them to have that moment, man, just having that closure. What about you?
No, I agree. I like that conversation, because Gia is a kumiho, so like she doesn't understand the nature of that was your first love, and you move on. You will always have that connection. And I was a bit harsh because last time I saw you, you had tentacles coming out of you. But like, but overall, like you're understanding human emotion and feelings. And the reason you came to me was because of this. And we can still bond over losing a parent. And I like the fact that they were able to, because like you said, Tick told her buzz off. And the fact that he came around, like Tick is not a terrible person. He's the epitome of a nice guy. So he came to her, talked to her, and explained to her what it is. And the fact that he invited her into the fold, and Letty even welcomed her in, like it's like everyone was cool. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that because you were my first love, and that was my first time, and things like that. Like it's a bond. It's a bond that doesn't really just go away just because. Whatever.
Right. Just because, you guys haven't spoken in a while. There's always that kind of, if Tick really needed Gia, we saw that she came through in the clutch, and I would hope that Tick would have done the same for her if she needed him, but I don't know. If we can rely on Tick. Yeah. This is an interesting point here. So none of the men were of the bloodline. He was the first male.
Oh,
okay. I think that sounds about right. Yeah. So, I guess that makes sense why we didn't see any of the male, bloodlines within the ancestral plane. So, very, very interesting comment there. So I guess since we're kind of on a topic of characters, just kind of talking about our heroes of the show, we talked briefly on Gia, we talked about Ruby, but how do we think as far as from the very first episode, Sundown, to what we get with Full Circle, starting with Letitia, as far as a character arc, do you think that, for me, she's still my favorite character? I love Journey Smollett, but just kind of your overall thoughts, and everyone in the comments too, let me know what you guys thought of the performance by Journey Smollett and her overall arc, from the sister who's always on the go, looking for religion, as she said in the finale, being a virgin, falling in love for the first time, having a baby by the end of the season. How do you think they handled the arc from Letitia, from the first time we met her to what we see her claiming the Book of Names at the end of the season?
I want to say, first of all, if Journey isn't even nominated for an Emmy, it's highway robbery. Highway robbery. I enjoyed her character. I felt like you said the way that lady was introduced in the first episode, that she was kind of gone with the wind, if you will, and here, not there, not serious for the most part, looking for religion. And
Mm,
but she grew as a character. Like she started understanding responsibility when she first bought her house to what she's using it now as a place for people of low income. How she pioneered it. At the end of the finale, we saw that other black couple moving across the street. How
yeah.
she became, instead of being the one that no one could depend on, she became almost the foundation of the group and in general the community that they built around. And like you said, her carrying Tick's kid, her having the book of names, her being the one who convinced Hattie to pass on the book. Like she
Mm,
grew as a character and she became more mature as the season went on. And she was an action go-getter in the first one until she became like almost the matriarch of the family by the end of the season.
right. Right. No, that's, I mean, and you hit the nail on the coffin, man. That's one of the reasons why I love that character, just from the beginning to the end. Someone that's kind of lost, someone that came from someone of a broken family or not having a sense of family. Her and her sister kind of being separated for many, many years. And she only goes to Ruby when she needs her. We got the brief scene with her brother, that we saw on their way to Artem. So she never had that sense of family. So now that she ends the season with a family and a family of her own, literally with baby George coming, it was an incredible journey, to say the least, from the performance that we got. And again, I thought Journey, I mean, she's been killing it since she was a little girl. She's been doing her thing for a very long time. And it seems like now a lot of people are starting to recognize her from, A Birds of Prey and now into this. So I think her career is just going to only go up from here. And she deserves it because she's so fantastic. And I still go back to episode 3, man. When you brought up that nomination for the Emmys next year, if she doesn't get nominated, let alone if she don't win, for me in my book, I thought that she was just incredible from start to finish. And again, like you said, that kind of that burden that she has now in her hands to protect the book of names. And we'll talk about that as far as like season 2 potentiality in regards to, okay, just because us black folks have the book of names doesn't mean that it's in good hands, because we've seen it all season. Our characters can be very selfish and make some really bad decisions. So who has the book of names doesn't mean it's always going to be safe. But no, overall I thought Letty was my favorite character through and through. Go ahead.
I've watched enough TV shows to say, like you said, if she doesn't win, like I haven't seen an actress on a show this year yet take it to that level.
Yeah. Journey been killing it since Full House. Yep, that's for sure, man. Yeah, she's fantastic, and I really hope she gets a lot more opportunities after this performance. So it brings us to, if there's Letty, we got Tick, man. The hero's journey of sorts. We talked about it last week that, he's maybe the 4th or 5th most compelling character. And I think that's kind of the structure of the show, that a lot of the female characters and some of the other characters were a little bit more interesting, had a little bit more meat on the bone. But I think at the end of the day, we still got a good arc for Tick, I would say, from when we first meet him. A young man stuck in the books, loving sci-fi, wants to get out of his own reality. He literally has to go to war to please his dad, to escape his terrors from, the things that he lived in life. So I think from the beginning of the season to where we end, him making the ultimate sacrifice to protect his family, very similar to his ancestors, I thought it was a beautiful journey. And from a performance standpoint, I mean, this dude here, we talk about awards, give his agent an award, man, from Last Black Man in San Francisco, The Five Bloods, this show, Marvel coming up. I mean, this guy, kudos to his agent for getting him on these great projects, man. But what's your overall thoughts on Tick and just his journey, his character arc?
By the end of by the finale, Tick grew on me more, because Tick, like, even though Tick was arguably, like you said, 3 or 4 most compelling character on the show, by the time the finale came, Tick is cemented as the main character of the show, and he has the hero's journey. His life itself is a tragedy. So I love the fact that it's the hero's journey. Like you said, he starts off a certain character and he's going down this path and he makes the ultimate sacrifice. So ultimately it reads like a Shakespearean tragedy, if you will. Like he finally got the love and recognition from his father. He's having a kid. He was a nerdy kid growing up, and now he's fell in love with Gia, had something, fell in love with Letty. So now he's the man, essentially. And at the end, when he turns around in the last episode and looks at his family as they're closing the safe travel guide,
Yeah.
and that this is what it's all about, look on his face.
Yep.
And then for him to die of 20 minutes later in the episode, it's like,
Yep.
it's a tragedy. It's him finally ascending past all his traumas, him bonding with Montrose in the previous episode, and him understanding that this is my journey, and for his journey to end, it's like that hurt me. Because this guy he's finally happy, like he's finally got everything he wanted.
Yeah.
And then he can't even enjoy, even when they were getting baptized, and he put his hand on Letty's stomach and said, I would need a lifetime to enjoy this. And he doesn't get that lifetime.
That's true, man. And again, we'll talk about some of the time travel. Who knows what time he spent in the future in that portal? But yeah, I think again, Jonathan Majors did a phenomenal job of introducing this world to us, because he was the first character we met. And I think through and through again, even though I think there were some more compelling characters and some characters that had a little bit more developed than him, I still think that if someone else was in that role, we would have probably forgotten about Tick and really didn't care for him from when he dies at the end of the season. And so I think Tick, came through as far as just being a satisfying hero of our story. Interesting comment here from OS3 says, I don't get the hype on a nomination because a lot of shows get overlooked. I remember Penny Dreadful on Showtime was excellent, but never got a. Very true. The only reason I'm thinking, and not only because I think the performances were great, but I mean, just recently from HBO, Regina King and Watchmen swept up the Emmys, man, and also Euphoria with Zendaya. I mean, so HBO has always had people always have their eyes on HBO. So I think after the success of Euphoria, of Watchmen, I think that now that baton's going to potentially be passed to a Journey Smollett or some other characters from the show. So I wouldn't be surprised, man, if Lovecraft Country gets some nominations, especially from the acting category. And also someone had mentioned, which I definitely don't want to neglect, Nicole brings up also in the same vein, MVP, whoever did the graphics and effects is amazing. Yeah, Nicole, you hit it right on the head. The visual effects were impeccable. There were some minor issues with some of the visual effects, with some very small things.
Episode, but
but overall, the metamorphosis scenes, the creature designs, the ghost designs. I mean, this was HBO at its finest. I mean, this was definitely some high quality visuals. Yeah,
space scenes with Hippolyta. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. We got Mandalorian season 2. But I wouldn't be surprised if Lovecraft found his way being on nominations when it comes to the visual effects, costume department. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with all the subcategories in the Emmys. I don't know if it has a costume design or. Okay, so I believe it deserves that, because I felt like I was in the 50s. I feel like I was in 1921 when we went back there. So, and like you said, the space, I feel like the visuals as well as the set design and everything on a technical level was definitely it's a good some acknowledgement. So that brings us to our other hero, which is we'll pair them up together, Hippolyta and Uncle George. When we lost Courtney B. Vance pretty early on, that still hurts my heart in episode 2. This goes to show how great of a performer and actor Courtney B. Vance is. But what do we think about that family, man? Hippolyta's journey from when we first meet her as a wife who's kind of, as she says in I Am, kind of in her own box, not able to spread her wings like she wanted to. She has to put her journeys aside, her adventures aside to be this mother, to be this wife. But how did you think Hippolyta's story kind of came out from when we met her to being really the hero of the show, to be honest?
I liked Hippolyta's story, if only because remember in the first episode, she pretty much begged George to go on the guide tours with her. He never let her. And like you said, she was stuck at home watching always watching life pass her by as everyone got to be who they were.
Yeah.
And she, in the episode I Am, she becomes who she's always meant to be. And it shows that we found like Hippolyta is the smartest one in the group by far.
Yeah.
It's like she had all this behind her, but she was unable to express it. And it goes to show like the times, because this is the 50s and this is I mean, some of it that still prevails today, but this was the 50s, and back then you got married, you stayed home, you raised the kids, and that was your lot in life. And then you grow old and then you become grandma and whatever, and you're done. You never really get to explore who you are, never get to explore your sexuality, because we saw in I Am, like when she was with Josephine Baker, how she was exploring that, how she was with the Homie Warriors, how she was able to learn to fight and be an action star. And you would think that usually when someone who's of the middle age or elderly of Hippolyta's age, like these people, I said these people, people of that age group, they don't, they're not sidelined in society. Like there are people that have feelings. They can still learn new things. They can still develop and evolve. And throughout life, your journey is never over. You're always learning, always evolving, always going to the next level. And I love the fact that there's like, listen, a middle-aged Black woman never, usually on television, ever gets that spotlight on them. They're usually
Never.
the smart mammy or their mom who's always nagging, and they never get to be the hero who saves the day. They don't get to be the ass kicker. You would think Tick would be the best fighter because of his physique and his build, but I'm sure Hippolyta kicks ass. Like the fact that she is the best fighter on the show, the smartest, and overall the one who actually gets shit done. Like when she came back at the episode when they were time traveled, like she got shit done, and it's like you never see that. So I enjoyed her character journey, and Courtney Vance's and George was cut too short.
Too short.
How he and this new Hippolyta interact with one another.
So to that point, and we'll go on to D, you know, the little Freeman. So I still haven't read the book. I plan on reading Mark Ruff's book, but it is interesting that in the book that Uncle George never dies. I believe Hippolyta still has her time travel story, but I wonder if Misha Green, creatively speaking, thought that if, I don't want to say it would have been a challenge to have both Uncle George and Hippolyta be able to have a full character arc, but I think that might have been the case, that it would have been too many stories, too many characters to focus on. I don't know if we would get Hippolyta's episode if Courtney B. Vance was in the entire season. So it is unfortunate to have to kill the character off very early on. But I think if we didn't kill Uncle George, which it hates and it pains for me to say because I love Courtney B. Vance, but I don't think we would have gotten that arc from Hippolyta if Uncle George was still alive, to be honest, man.
No, I agree, because she even said in the episode, she felt as though, and George admitted to it, like he also held her down, not purposely maybe, but because just inherent human nature, and he's a product of it. At the end of the day, he's a product of his time.
Exactly. So the man brings the money. He has to keep the family, his wife and daughter safe. So it's definitely very, stereotypical of that time. And I mean, still in today's society for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So with sticking with the Freemans, D, a character that we barely saw in the first half of the season, really didn't get into her until we got her episode in episode 8, Jigabobo. And I can't think of the young actress name, but I think and we'll talk more in depth about season 2, but if we do get that season 2, I think she's going to be the lead. I think D is going to be the main character, and I think she deserves that with her Bucky Winter Soldier arm and her her hatred, her pain, we talked about Hippolyta. I was right there with D when she was calling her mama out, saying, yeah, it's cool, you got to find yourself, mama, but in finding yourself, you left me. You left the responsibility of being my mom. Your husband, my dad has recently died. My best friends died. I lost my arm while you were gone. She called her out, man, but I think D is fantastic. And I think the best clap back of the season was the spitting back on Captain Lancaster, calling him a pig and it stinks in here. So what's your thoughts on D, and everyone in the chat too? What do you guys think about D and overall character?
I enjoyed Dee's character, and I do believe she would be, if there's a second season that focuses on this family, she would have to be the main character. Because remember when Tick came back from his future travels, he said someone with a metal arm is the one who saved him. Yeah. And you see at the end, she is the metal arm. And at this point, she has the Shoggoth, and she choked out Christina. So I feel like Dee's character, she has anger, rightfully so. Like her mom, like she's like, her dad died, her mom gone. Her best friend died. She was cursed, lost an arm, got chased by the Topsy creatures. And all the adults around her left her, and
continuously left her.
Right, even in the finale, they still left her alone in the car. And it's like, bruh.
Yeah.
So I like the young actress because she was able, like the spit with Lancaster, she's able to convey scared, but these are not just scared, but she's a badass. Because remember in the episode, she was cornered by the Topsies, and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna bring the fight to them. So she's more of a, instead of being reactionary, she's more of a out there go get it type of person. And then we saw with the book her with Arithia Blue at a Starry, like she's gonna be a sidekick. So she's gonna traverse with her mom sooner or later
Yeah.
in the comics. So I could see that happening.
So it's something you brought up when it regards to Dee's character and the journey that she may go through in season 2. So I guess let's just kind of speculate, not really going into our thoughts of season 2, but when we see Dee and her mom, Hippolyta, her telling her about the time in which she's done over the last, since he's been gone, and they go in that room. So are we to assume that room was the Ori activated? She goes to get her arm in the future. She has someone fix her arm, and she saw Tick in the portal. What do we suspect? What do we theorize? People in the chat, and of course my guest here, Shalon. What do we think was in that room, and what that could potentially mean for season 2 when she got her arm?
I think it might have been the Ori, but I also, it might have been the Ori, but I also feel like it's Hippolyta's technology, if you will. Like because she came back with infinite knowledge, like she said. So
right,
and you saw that the arm was kind of steampunkish. So I feel like because of the time they're in, it's like a lab, if you will. Like maybe the Ori's there. Maybe she's able to traverse shortly into the future using the Ori, that she doesn't have to go all the way back to wherever the time machine was, because she can recreate it herself. And like you said, they could go in there, get Dee a new arm, come back out, and use that as jumping points to travel, because she knows how to fix time machines, Hippolyta. So totally plausible for her to build her own and have that, so they can actually Woody the real MVP. And
that car never needed gas, did it? Ran off of just ran off of Shaboom Shaboom, I guess, was the gas on that car, the DeLorean. That is the real MVP, ladies and gentlemen, is the car. But yeah, I'm sorry, what were you saying, man, about Dee?
So I do feel like that room, it might have been like Hippolyta's gateway to her, because I don't feel like if you've been living on Earth 504 for 200 years, you can't go back to just living in 1950. Like,
right. 100%.
By the sheer lack of technology there is.
Yeah. And the lack of growth in humanity. Yeah,
right. And you got to go back to dealing with racist cops. I don't see them just staying there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and that's definitely something that we'll kind of theorize in regards to our predictions of season 2. So, let's see what they're saying about Miss Dee. What do they say here? If there's a season 2, Netflix needs to recruit Jada from Stranger Things. Oh, is that the little girl? Is that Homeboy's little sister?
Yeah, no, Jada is.
Or am I? Who's Jada?
Jada is the actress who plays Dee.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, and this Netflix needs to recruit her for. Okay, gotcha. Okay, yes, yeah, that would be dope. Because I think she's fantastic, and hope that we see her in a lot more things. But that lead. Let me see. Is there anyone else got anything? I thought Dee. Let's see. Wait, the God lady with the fro was Dee from the future. I thought Deanna had a. Oh, is that something someone mentioned that earlier? Have you seen that theory, Shalon, in regards to that was Dee from the future?
Diana from the future. I thought Diana had a robotic. Oh, interesting.
That is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yes, I mean, she had the fro. Yeah, we know Dee got that. That's a man.
She's already mentioned her robotic transition, if you will.
Yeah, I like that theory a lot. And that would be something to definitely explore. Shout out to Alicia. I think Alicia came up with that, if I'm not mistaken. But I like that theory a lot. But so it leaves us with our last hero of the show. We talked about Ruby, we talked about Dia, we talked about everyone. So Montrose, Michael K. Williams, the man himself. I saw your tweet earlier today where he was just in a whole. I mean, he was getting down, man. My man's Michael K. Williams is full of life, man. I love him as an actor, man. But Montrose, a character that for the longest was more frustrating than Ruby, more frustrating than Christina. It was just like, what is he doing? He's drinking. He's making the wrong decisions. He's killing these ancient, wisdom of powers in Yahima. But by the end of the season, boy, did he steal my heart, man.
Oh, yeah.
Sacrifices of being a son, coming out with Sammy, having his moment at the bar, him trying to wake up his son, now him having the burden of being the father he never was to Tick. Shalon, man, what's your thoughts on Michael K. Williams as Montrose Freeman?
Michael K. Williams at this point has no bad role in anything he plays.
I think you're right, man.
Michael K. Williams was by far the best actor on the show this season. Like he acted his like in every scene that he was in. Like when he was happy, you were happy. When he was sad, you were sad. When he was angry, like you could feel his emotions through the screen as the character, and you saw all of our characters grew throughout the season, but no one grew as much as Montrose did. And like I said, it came with a lot of growing pains. Like every character grew gradually, but Montrose had growing pains. Like he would make an adjustment from one episode to the other and then backtrack. And it's like he was the most real character, if you will. Like, because like he grew and backtracked. He came out one episode, the next episode snapped at Sammy and pretty much had him leave the house. And by the end, like he went through PTSD, he went through trauma. His brother died, his wife died, his son died. And his lover Thomas died as a kid, and as a grown man, he had to watch it again. He had father's abuse of him, and like,
man,
begin to understand like he's been overall. Like, all of our characters do messed up things. Like he killed Yahima, he's abusive to Tick, he's willing to fight Tick even as a grown man. But at the end of the day, like everything he did, like he was rough, but everything he did was for the betterment of his family. Like that moment when him and Tick cried in episode 9 about when they saw Thomas die, and he had to tell Tick, like, I don't care if you're George's son or mine, it doesn't matter, you're still my boy. And they shared that moment, and Tick finally understood his father. Like Montrose never, with society the way it was set up back then, he never stood a chance as a character. He never stood a chance as a person. He could never be himself. And then what really set me over the edge, not even after Tick died in his response, it's when Tick wrote him that letter and said, I'm giving you another chance to be a father again. Oh my God, I lost it.
Yeah, man.
Like as much shit that he's put Tick through, as much of like Tick snapped on, like, you used to beat my ass, like, and you used to say, don't be a sissy, don't be that. And it's all of that. You're projecting all that pain, but we've reached a level where I trust in your growth as a person, as a man, as a human, that I'm entrusting my son to you, even though you did everything to me that you did it, and I never wanted to be your son. I would have much rather been George's son. But at this point, I understand you, Dad, and I give you a second lease on life. Not only did Montrose come out and be at the gala with Sammy or whatever, be himself, and he gets another chance to raise somebody. And when Tick went to the future and we see that his son has the book, we're like, okay, Montrose did a good job as
raising it.
He did a good job with Tick too. Like it's like as messed up as his childhood was, like he did it, and he did it his way. It was fucked up. It wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But man, like I could appreciate a flawed character that tries.
Yeah, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, Montrose, I totally agree with you, man. He and by the way, guys, we got 61 people in the chat now. Thank you all for tuning in with us on this Saturday evening. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, so I really appreciate it. So make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to this incredible content creator, this incredible person, Shalon, the Binge Zone. His information is in the link below, guys. Make sure you subscribe to his incredible channel. A lot of great stuff over there, and let's continue this conversation. But yeah, man, Montrose, Michael K. Williams. We talked about awards. He wasn't a lead, obviously, but I mean, again, if there are supporting characters, or I'm not too familiar with the Emmys. If there is supporting male of the show,
I swear, like if him and I think they're gonna give Letty has to be nominated for the leading actress because she was
leading actress. Yeah.
I have to see I don't know who the other nominees are, so like I don't think anyone's gonna beat her out, but like that's a tougher crowd to beat.
Yeah,
but I think Michael Williams, supporting actor, no way. There's no.
No. I'm right there with you, man. Yeah, his journey, his beginnings to his where he's at to get that second chance in life to be a better father. That he wasn't, like you said. He at the end of the day, his son, which I guess is just a conversation about just parenting, right? It's just like Tick had a bad childhood with his dad abusing him and not having his mom, but he also, some people might say that he raised himself in a certain extent, right? And had to kind of learn to be a man of his own and not really given all the, credit to his dad, but at the end of the day, I think there were still lessons that Tick gave, or I should say Montrose gave Tick as the seasons kind of went on, or as the show kind of went on. But I think Michael K. Williams was incredible, man. I think he definitely had, from the beginning of the show to the end, the most, kind of 180 in regards to character change. So no doubt Michael K. Williams was phenomenal, man. So I think we pretty much touched on all the heroes. So with that being said, kind of the question for you and the people in the chat, out of all of our heroes, Letty, Tick, Hippolyta, George, Ruby, Gia, Dee, and Montrose, who would you go on this tale with if you were if you were a season 19 or a new series, if you were on this journey of self-discovery and you had to get your own family's book of names, which one of those heroes would you take with you as your number 2? And this is for everyone in the chat too. And I guess this is essentially who's your favorite character at the end of the day, but who would you want to take on this journey with you if you had to kind of reclaim your name and your family's heritage in the book of names, if that was something in your family's tree?
Montrose is my favorite character, but yep. I'm going with Letty.
Letty? Okay.
I'm going with Letty because she came through in almost every episode. Like, they don't get this without her at all. Like, go get her. She was the one who was first running across the bridge, running from the Shaggoths. She was the one who the fire. Yep. She was the one who hot-wired a car in 1921. Like, I'm going with Letty. I'm going with Letty.
That's a great pick. And as you know, I've said it multiple times on our streams that we've had together and on my reviews. She's my favorite character, is Letty, and I love Letty. But if I were to go on this journey of self-discovery, I think there's no other journey woman than Hippolyta. I think I would have to have Hippolyta on my side. Like you had mentioned when you talked about her, she's intelligent. She now has this knowledge of multiverse, interdimensional, cross-parallel worlds. She's a journey woman. She's battled in wars. She's danced on stage with Josephine Baker. I mean, she can have some good conversations. If you want to have a fun night, she can teach you how to dance, write poetry, write a comic. She has a great style and hair. So, I mean, Hippolyta, man, she would have to be my not even my go-to, my number 2. I would be following her. So I think I would have to have Hippolyta be my my leader if I was in this situation, and I think like I said, we would have a good time because she has a lot of knowledge and never be a bored night in regards to conversation. So everyone in the chat, who would you guys, if you were in this situation of Tick, who would be your person that you would take on this journey? Let us know in the chat. So we talked about the heroes of the show. I think it's only right talk about the villains, man. Starting off with the big bad, who we all kind of theorize. Is she good? Is she bad? I mean, she's helped our heroes out, but it was all for her own doings. Christina, what's your overall thoughts from when we meet her in episode 2, when she, meets them in the forest? Well, I guess we see her. Was it episode 1? We saw her briefly in episode 1 when she flipped the car over. Yeah. So when we first meet her, to her dying on the hands of Dee, what's your overall take on the Christina character?
Christina. Christina, she fooled me. They fooled me with Christina because I was one of the ones who was like, is she really a bad guy? Like, she really hasn't. She played everyone to the T.
Yeah.
And ultimately, she was the representation of the type of, I don't mean to get too political on here, but
sure, I'll go for it, man.
She is the white feminist personified. Like she comes off girl power and telling let's not worry about the men, all of this, but ultimately it's all to serve her own goal. She's not she's not against men to destroy the institution of her father. Yeah. It's more so she could place herself up that hierarchy, because at the end, she, like episode 9, she told Letty, I'm going to give you the Mark of Cain. But as soon as she didn't get the Book of Names, she walked out and just took that shit from her. And throughout all her journey, everything she's done, like, she's always coming off like compromising, but it's always a means to an end. You're her father. She killed her father. She killed or comatose Ruby. Tick is her family, and she was willing to kill Tick for immortality. It's almost as though like she had her bigger agenda, and she's good with words, if you will, right? So she
Yeah.
was able to talk her way and make it seem as though she wasn't the bad guy. How even when she was William, and she told George and Tick, even if they don't want you to be here, you have every right to be here. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a way of her empowering them, but actually she's speaking about herself. Even though they don't want me here, I have a right to be here. And her whole thing was not to the benefit of our women or everybody. It was for the benefit ultimately of Christina. She is selfless.
Yeah.
She is egotistical,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately, like when Dee told her at the end, you never learn, because another thing that she did was Dee was left in the car by herself, and
Mm-hmm.
like everyone in the car knew where she was. That means
Mm-hmm.
Ruby Christina knew. So she sent the Shagath after Dee, and it's like, so you knew all of this, and you still like you were gonna squash everybody. Like you held them down and made them watch your ascension as you bathed in Tick's blood,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately you're just gonna probably kill them all when you're done, because everything went down to it's all about me. I'm Christina. And it's the perfect form of she's not like the show deals with a lot about racism and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
overt, and she was the most covert racist of them all. She played like she wasn't, but
Yeah.
ultimately she really was. Because even she would let slick remarks go, like she told Tick in the catacombs and Jigabobo, like, you're not white enough to have that level of entitlement, right?
Mm-hmm.
That never
Mm-hmm.
slipped my mind. I'm like, huh. So you're aware of the benefits of your race, and you're acting as though you're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. She was at first when I met Christina, we didn't know what to think of her. I thought that the acting was subpar at most. Again, and not subpar, I should say, just because everyone else was just so much more elevated in regards to the acting realm. So I thought that the actress was okay. But as the season went on, I hate to say it, everybody out there, but Christina really I was really impressed by her at the end of the day. Now, do I condone her actions? No, but what makes a good villain to me is they think they're the heroes of their own story. They don't see what they're doing. Like she said to Tick, nothing's personal. This isn't a family squirrel. This isn't a generational hate. This is just part of the circumstances, and there's no hatred or personal thing connected to it, which is a perfect thing that a villain would say. There's no personal. There is some vendetta that she had for like William's revenge and all that, but her overall goal, it wasn't personal. And again, that's what a villain would think if they thought that they were the hero of their own story. So I think she was very complicated. We saw her very early on the season, which a scene that still confuses me, the birth of the Shagah. I still don't know what that comes to be. Some people theorize that it's the Shagah that Tick got at the end of the season at episode 8. Some people just think it's just her birthing her own army of Shagahs. I don't know. Maybe season 2 will get more of that explanation. I think of the scenes where she was playing hide and go seek with the kids randomly, showing that she probably didn't have a normal childhood. She probably didn't have kids to play with, so she kind of has a tragic upbringing herself. And then the scene where she recreates Emmett Till's death, and she's laughing and crying at the same time. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, she thought that Dee was going to save her. She's sitting there screaming, "Help me, Dee, help me, help me." Like, did you really think she was going to help you? So I think Christina, very complicated. I say the word anti-villain because I don't think she was like you mentioned, a straight up villain, because I think she allowed her judgment not to be clouded at a lot of times, where I think some villains would have, like, ultimately she didn't get what she wanted. But I think that if it was a straight villain like a Lancaster, she wouldn't have made it all the way to the end because of selfish reasons and whatnot. So I think Christina was great, man. I mean, she's not up there as far as like villains of all time, a Cersei, a Joffrey, or a Ramsay or whatnot. But I thought for the show, I thought she was pretty great. And again, going back to the comparison for the book I haven't read, I find it very interesting that Misha Green decided to make her a female rather than, I think the character Christina was a Kel or something like that in the book. So it completely changes the dynamic of the character in her storyline, and obviously the relationship she had with Ruby. So I think she was a pretty good actress, man. I think at first very on the fence about her, but I ended up really kind of liking what the character and I'm still confused on what the show wants us to think about Christina, because going back to the finale, she kept her word to Ruby to not have, which when I saw that scene when Letty died, I knew she wasn't going to die first and foremost, but I thought it was because she had her son inside of her, had the blood, had the protection, put the spell back on her, but it was ultimately Christina that gave her the spell back. So it's just like, why did she do that? Why did Christina give the invulnerability mark of Cain back to Letty? Yes, she kept her word to her sister, but I mean, you killed Ruby. So it's just like, again, it's just like, I'm so confused on how we're supposed to feel about Christina, man.
I think ultimately, for as evil or bad as she was, Christina was a woman of her word at the very least. Like that's the one thing she had that I felt like she kept throughout the show. Like even when she told Tick, "We are friends" at the beginning, and she removed the memory thing from them in the second episode, she was her word. So she told, if she promised you something, she at least lived up to it. And that's like you said, the best villains are the ones who think they're the heroes. So it's because she thinks she lives up to her word, like it kind of makes amends for what she did. And that's why I think I'm like, okay, I do feel that she had feelings for Ruby ultimately, because she maybe felt a kindred spirit in Ruby, like, okay, Ruby's willing to step on everybody else just like I am to get what she needs.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately she was disappointed in Ruby.
Yeah, I think, like you said, someone that did keep her word, and which makes me wonder if she would have kept her word to Tick, the offer that she gave him about not hurting the family. If he would have gave her the book, I don't know if that's something we, I don't know if she is a woman of her word. I want to thank you, Stacy Joe, for the super chat. Thank you so much for the support. If you guys want to, you don't have to. Super chats are available. Streamlabs.com/moviefiles as well as PayPal. So thank you for that. Her question was the, and we actually kind of just went off that. Was the black monster the one that Christina helped birth in the barn? I would take Letty. She was always, as far as your favorite character, Letty was great, and that's the same character that Shalon picked. But in regards to that question, so again, the monster she birthed in the barn, was it just her creating her own army? Was it Shagar that was Tick? Is it just a scene? Like
I think that one was Tick's.
Was Tick's?
Yeah, because it was birth and it was dark. It was black.
Was dark, yeah.
And I'm guessing with that Shoggoth, like you have to do the spells to summon them. And I guess she didn't summon it. Tick ended up summoning it first with his spell, so it became bound to him as opposed to being bound to her. But I do think Shoggoth was the one she birthed, and that one wasn't raised with the other ones yet. So that's why he fought the other Shoggoth off.
Yeah. It's interesting, man, because I'm on a lot of different like groups with this the show on Lovecraft Country. Some people were theorizing that Shoggoth that Tick got and D ultimately has was Uncle George. I don't know how that would have worked in regards to, again, we saw that when you get bit by one, you turn to one. We saw that in episode 1, but I don't think Uncle George was, we didn't see him. He was able to make it to the barn without getting killed. I don't know if he got bit on his way there, but what's your thoughts on that theory that Shoggoth that ultimately protected Tick and also protected Dee, his daughter, and saved her ultimately, is Uncle George? What's your thoughts on that, if that's even possible? I mean, we're all working with magic here, but
that would work, because let's assume that it's the one that Christina birthed. George was alive when that one was born, and I don't know, because I don't know how to, because that thing was.
I've seen it a lot online on Facebook. A lot of people think that that's Uncle George. Again, I wouldn't understand the logic behind it. Again, the only thing I can think of is that he was bitten that night somehow. But I mean, the transformation happened so instantly with the white guy. So I don't know. I don't think that it's a fun theory. It's one of those fun theories you could throw in the bin, but I don't think there's a lot of merit to that. But hey, it would be something interesting. But I think I still don't know if that's if Tick's Shoggoth. I mean, it makes sense that would be his, even though Christina birthed it. But I don't know. Again, that's just makes me want to season 2 for those little things to get explained. But in regards, thank you again, Stacy, for the super chat. But a couple other villains we have, one being the Sons of Adam, which we really only got a little bit of. I don't know if you felt kind of underwhelmed by them, if there wasn't enough time to explain the Sons of Adam. But I guess the main villain that kind of comes from that also is Captain Lancaster. So any thoughts on the Sons of Adam and Lancaster in regards to, did you not like them, but did they serve their purpose in the show?
I don't think so. I felt like the Sons of Adam overall were underutilized, especially
Yeah.
the shows let us know that there are so many lodges. And
Hmm.
Lancaster himself, he appeared as a villain to harass Letty in the third episode,
Yep.
and showed up to bully D in the eighth episode.
Yep.
But aside from that, Lancaster didn't really do much. Like he had two episodes where one of them he bullied D, and one of them he bullied Letty. But
Yeah.
as villains, they didn't do much. I mean, they shot up the house, but that was the one time where I feel like, okay, now we're going somewhere with them. And then the Shoggoth came in and wiped them all out for the most part.
Hmm.
Okay, I would have loved for them to be going through all of this if Lancaster and the Sons of with them down their neck, with them being on top of us trying to stop Christina. We also have this presence of Lancaster and the Sons of Adam and the cops down our back. So we can't, there's no room for error, if you
Right.
will. But we didn't have that looming presence. Like Lancaster was there, but he wasn't, he felt more like a side character. Like he was there, but he wasn't really there. And we didn't really even get into the ramifications of his skin changing and him taking black body parts. Like I felt like that was an interesting plot point where we really could have dived deep and had an episode on
Yeah.
that. Just what is his end goal with it, and the fact that Christina said that he wasn't even a full member of the Sons of Adam.
Son of Adams. Yeah.
Okay, this is interesting here. I would have loved to gotten more about that. The backstory, why and how he killed William, was also explored. And I'm like, okay, Lancaster made for a perfect racist, typical villain of that time, but we just didn't get time with him at all.
And I think to play devil's advocate, I think again this is a show primarily with a black show creator, black leads in the role, and besides Christina, I think that this show really does, just like Jordan Peele says, it's not that he doesn't want white people in his movies. It's just that primarily speaking, they're going to be the most dominant storyline. So I think it just became one of those situations, not again, like you said earlier, not to get too political, but I think Misha Green didn't want to focus too much on the white characters. It was more about the black story and the tragedy and the generational reclaiming your name. So I think in a character like that, I don't think unfortunately, we weren't going to spend that much time with him, which kind of leaves us, like you just mentioned, a backstory episode, really understanding his motives. What did he want the Ori for? Because that was something he wanted to get into the house. And
wanted it too, and we don't know why.
Yeah, we don't know why. The guy in the closet, we just assume was
white. The guy in the closet was white. So like
white. Yeah, he didn't take body parts or his skin. So it is very... a show like this, there are certain characters that I guess you're just kind of going to be, I don't want to say frustrated, because at the end of the day, Captain Lancaster not having a full story arc doesn't ruin my experience of the show, but it is just one of those little storylines that you wish was seasoned a little bit more, a little marinated more, cooked a little bit more well done. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We still got a full a plethora of other great characters. Daniela, thank you so much for the super chat. She says that the Shoggoth was the one. So she believes that Shoggoth was the one that D was created by Christina, and to feel like she spelled the one that protected Tick up into the autonomy orthodox. Yeah, so I think it's pretty much safe, because I don't think you have that scene with her giving birth if it didn't mean anything. And by the end of the day, episode 8, when we saw it, I think we can all pretty much theorize that is the same Shoggoth. Yeah. So Niecy Smith with a super chat. I love her when she comes through. She doesn't even leave a comment. She just loves to support the channel, and I love her for doing that. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for joining us tonight. So we spoke on the heroes, we spoke on the villains. I think now, so actually, I'm just going to leave this question for you, because I have a video coming out about this tomorrow. But I would just love to know, what were your top, to put you on the spot, top, maybe we could either do 3 or top 5 if you have them off top, but at least the top 3 episodes for you for the first season of Lovecraft Country. And everyone in the chat, let us know your top 3 or top 5 or top 10, because that will be a video I will have for you guys tomorrow as my top 10 episodes. So I don't want to spill the beans on tonight's live. You have to wait for that. But Shalom, my guest, my friend, top 3 or top 5 episodes for the entire season 1 of Lovecraft Country.
I can do top 3. My favorite, episode 1.
Episode 1.
Episode 9, 1921.
1921, okay.
Okay, and I said 1, 9, and let me pick one more. I want to go with Meet Me in Daegu.
No, episode 6. Yeah, awesome, man. I love it. That's
6 and 9.
a little sprinkle of a little sneak behind the scenes. Those episodes made it pretty high on my list as well, man. So again, guys, it's a quick little shameless plug. Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna have my top 10 episodes of Lovecraft Country on the channel tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. So I love your list there, man. Great minds, things alike. So let us know.
One that not to cut you off. Which episode was the one where Montrose ended up coming out?
That was the Metamorphosis episode, which was episode 5, Strange Case, because that's when she had her journey, Montrose had his journey as well.
That would be my 4th. Let me round it off.
Yeah,
Jigga Bobo would be my 5th.
So episode 8, gotcha. The Immatil and the Topsy Girls,
yeah,
and then that ending, that ending was so great. The ending was so much like episode 1 with the Chagall coming out and ripping all that. Was a great, that's a great episode too.
Yeah, so. They have almost all the same episodes.
Let's see. Mike has 1921 as his favorite, so that was episode 9. Let's see. Nick has top 5. Episode 1, so Sundown, Meet Me in Daegu. Episode 7 was I Am. Episode 8 was Jigga Bobo, and then Rewind 1921. Yeah, those are some fantastic episodes. Love Jones says the Hippolyta episode, so episode 7, 1921, episode 9, and the finale. Okay. Nice. Top 3 Hippolyta, so episode 7, episode 9, and then D, so episode 8. Okay, so more or less seems like the back half, those back half episodes are your favorite. I love it. James says episode 9, episode 1, episode 3, which was a haunted house episode. Meet Me in Daegu, and then Strange Case. So awesome list here, guys. I love it. Let's see. Is KB? Someone says hi, KB. Is KB in the chat? Did I miss her? Did I miss KB? Or did someone just say hi, KB? But no, you guys got some great lists. I don't know if KB's in the chat, guys, unless I missed her. But no, there's some great stuff. Jay says 1921 was his favorite. And then Alicia says episode I Am, Holy Ghost, and then episode 4 was, what was episode 4 called? Violent History of Violence.
Yeah, I actually like History of Violence too. It almost cracked my top 5.
Yeah, that's the Goonies and Indiana Jones. Yeah, that was a fun episode. Nicole's list here is episode 1, Sundown, I Am, Rewind 921, Holy Ghost, and then Strange Case. Awesome. Louise Brooks.
The latter half was the stronger half.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think for me, and that's a great, I guess, a question to ask for you and as well as the chat. Man, which half was stronger? I'm going to have to think about that. Let me read this super chat first. And thank you, by the way. Thank you for super chat. So glad Lovecraft Country helped me find the both of you. Thank you so much for the insightful discussion. That's awesome. Thank you so much. This was a show, man. And we can we'll go back to the first half, second half conversation. But I just want to know, from when you saw the trailer, Shalon, I don't even remember when I saw the trailer. When you saw the trailer to ultimately last week's finale, and just your overall take on the show, did it stick the landing? Did it meet your expectations, exceed your expectations? Was it kind of, just a good TV show and kind of forget about it? Just kind of encompassing your experience with Lovecraft Country, man.
When I first saw the trailer, the first thing that hit me was like, that's different. And I was like, okay, and I saw, Jonathan Majors, Letitia, Michael K. Williams. I'm like, okay, I wonder what this was like. I got the gist of it, black sci-fi, but I didn't know like it was gonna be blackety black, like getting into the history. Like I thought it was gonna be a sci-fi show dealing with black main characters, which in itself would have been cool. But the fact that it dived into the history, and again throughout certain episodes where we're having songs and poems in the background, and we're tying different aspects. Like I had no idea we were going to even touch on Tulsa, but the ramifications of the tragedy of Tulsa and how that shaped a generation, which is Montrose's generation, that ends up shaping Tig's generation, and overall exploring Black femininity with Hippolyta, Letty, D, and the culture. Like I had Emmett Till being in this show was never on my radar. And
that could have went bad.
Oh,
to have something that impactful that literally sparked the civil rights movement. I mean, that could have just been a very polarizing, very kind of mishandled, but they did a really good, at least in my opinion, they did a really good job on it.
Because when they first mentioned Bobo, I was like, sure you want to go down that route?
Right.
They handled it perfectly. And I'm like, wow, like they really handled it. It touched upon, like I said, Black femininity, the civil rights. It touched on Black homosexuality during that time, and it dispelled the notion of a 6 foot something swole Black guy in Jonathan Majors being like a lunkhead muscle guy until he's a bibliophile and he's smart, and like it's a smart family. Like this is an intelligent Black family going on these adventures, and they're not using like the conventional ways. Like they went through time, and every time travel show I've watched, like usually the cast aren't right. So when they go through time, they always fuck up something in the timeline somehow, somewhere.
All the time. That's why I couldn't watch Flash anymore. That's why I couldn't watch Flash, because it was getting frustrating.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm like, Barry, you went back there to your mom's death like this for the 57th time. I couldn't watch that, but like. They went through time. They didn't fuck anything up. Like they used their brain. They actually solve problems with their brain, and it's something you don't see. You don't see Black minds being put to work that way. Did physics on camera, and that shit looked cool as hell. And I'm like, this is something I never expected from the trailer. I thought it was going to be a more action-packed show, and the show is full of action. But I never expect the cultural relevance, the bibliography. The fact that they're using their mind, the fact that Montrose had the rough exterior and the edges, but in that episode, when they went through the episode 4, when they went through the adventure and came to the library, and Montrose read on the book. I'm like, they actually put their brains to use, and it's just not action packed. It's Black people being smart and being intelligent, and also working through their trauma, also growing from all the shit that they've been through. And instead of them using it as excuse not to be bettered, they grew past it and they evolved as characters.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I think that from when I first saw the trailer, first off, me being a sci-fi head, I just love that it was a lot of sci-fi elements. I'm a horror fanatic, so I love that it played on that was a great trailer, because what it did, and this is a great conversation here regarding the trailer presented it as a sci-fi horror show with a Black cast, with J.J. Abrams' name behind it, with Jordan Peele behind it, and Misha Green having Underground, which I have to catch up on, and being kind of a newer up and coming show writer. I love the cast. I was sold. But then when you see the show, and someone mentioned it very early on in the stream, who were the true monsters of the show, the creatures, the ghosts, the super sci-fi elements, or the racism. So I think the show presented itself in a light, and I don't think it was, I don't want to say mismarketing or false advertisement. I think they saved that because it was so impactful. And plus, too, I think it's hard to convey those important moments, having an Emmett Till thing in the trailer, or showing, Boosie. I think that's hard to put in the trailer. So that was a welcoming surprise for me. I didn't feel like the show mismarketed itself, because at the end of the day, it did have horrific elements, not only on the creatures, but literally the humanity side of racism in the 1950s and everything that came through. So I think from when I first saw a trailer to finishing it last week, regardless, and we're going to get into some of the criticisms we have about the show here in a bit, but regardless of my criticisms, this show is groundbreaking no matter how you cut it. We've never seen this type of cast with this showrunner with HBO backing it ever before. And like I said, I know some people didn't like the show, which is fine, to each his own, but I think the way the show was able to balance the entertainment aspect, the educational aspect, without being like, what's the word? I don't want to say, without being too preachy or being like beating you. At least I didn't take it that way. I don't feel like it beat me over the head. Like I think of Spike Lee, like most recently, Five Bloods. I think the way he narratively told that story, how Black people felt like they were fighting a war for a country that didn't care about them. I feel like Misha Green was able to kind of encapsulate that within this show in regards to Black trauma and Black people, how we looked at ourselves during that time, and how generational pain and trauma, very a la, Watchmen. Someone mentioned Watchmen a little bit earlier, but I think this show is just completely groundbreaking. And I said it on a live stream a couple of days ago. I think this show what Black Panther was to the Hollywood landscape, that, oh, Black people go out to go see Black superhero movies. Okay, well, we're going to do Blade now. We're going to get,
Right.
Sam's going to be the new Captain America. So I think Hollywood's now seeing that Black people do support this type of genre, horror, sci-fi and all that. So I hope with Black Panther and Ryan Coogler and all those people, and rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, what they were able to do with Black Panther to Hollywood, I think Misha Green, Journey Smollett, Jonathan Majors, and all that incredible cast and crew will do to the landscape of television. And we're going to hopefully get more sci-fi Black stories, horror Black stories, and not bad quality sci-fi horror. And I mean, there's some movies, I wasn't a fan of Antebellum. Right. The other night we got Bad Hair on Hulu. There's the stereotypical Black stories. And look, I love those stuff just as much as anyone else, but I want quality. I just don't want and no offense to anyone that's a Tyler Perry fan, but I feel like he plays to his hand, that he knows that Black people will support some Black content, and sometimes the quality isn't there, but he still keeps pushing it out. But
he filmed the entire season in like 3 days.
Hey man, and I respect his hustle. Shout out to Tyler Perry and what he's been able to do and accomplish.
I respect him.
Respect him to the upteenth. Yeah, but I just don't feel like his content is not all that great. So I hope that Misha Green is a trailblazer in the sense that we're going to get more of this type of content on TV. So I love what Lovecraft did.
I agree with you with the trailer and the marketing. If they would have marketed it, I don't know if you remember the show Dear White People.
Yeah, Justin Seaman.
Yes, from Black Hair. The way they marketed that automatically was divisive and stopped the show from ever becoming like, the show is nothing like the trailer portrayed it out to be.
Yes.
So I felt like if they came out with the trailer of Lovecraft showing us more of that, automatically that would have been divisive.
Very standoffish for a lot of people.
Yeah. So the fact that not just white people, Black people too would have felt like, not another preachy. But they let us know sci-fi monsters piqued our interest. And as people are watching it, they're dropping the thing there, and you're like, I feel like surprising people with that knowledge and letting them experience it firsthand, genuinely, before they even have preconceived notions on what it could be, works perfectly. And like you said, what Black Panther did to cinema, I feel like this will do to television, because we had it somewhat with Watchmen, and people, they're like, oh, Watchmen works. Here's Lovecraft. Yeah. Oh, so because we're able to take what Watchmen did, build upon it in Lovecraft. And I'm like, okay, so we show up because Lovecraft has better ratings than Euphoria. Euphoria got a second season. And I'm like, okay.
I can't wait for it.
And Lovecraft was matching Watchmen. And Watchmen itself, when the trailers dropped, it was divisive only because the main character was Regina King, and you had all the loyalists, if you will, like, not my Watchmen, right? And Watchmen was one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. So I'm like, okay, I loved what they did with Watchmen. I was a Watchmen purist. I had the original comic. I watched the movie. I loved it. And when I saw the show as a fan, I'm like, this works. This works. And I feel like that was a gradual step. So now that we have Hollywood sees, okay, Black people love sci-fi too. And they show up to watch the stuff like Sunday on Twitter, and Lovecraft not be on every timeline trending, special hashtags, and also like it's something. Okay, we can have a Black space show. Now we can have a Black exploring Indiana Jones type show. Like this laid the groundworks for more.
100%, man. I'm gonna try to pull up an article. You just touched on the numbers. I think I saw in Deadline what the final numbers did, but like you said, it was. I haven't been this excited for a Sunday show probably since Game of Thrones, if I'm being honest. I've checked out of Walking Dead many years ago, so I haven't really been on that hype train for a while. But Lovecraft Country, I couldn't wait till Sunday night to see what was what Misha Green had for us. So. This was an article from, pull it back up. That was an article from Deadline talking about the finale and the numbers, which I think was some of the highest ratings that HBO has got on a finale in a very long time. Let me pull up that article again. Give me a second, everybody. All right, so Get these stupid ads out of the way. Lovecraft Country hit series high ratings with epic series finale. Let me see if they actually have the numbers. So the finale of The Freshman hit both linear and digital over 800,000 viewers, which, let's see here, was 90%. So it was over a 90% increase from the show's premiere. So that means that people that watch the first episode stuck around, but also people that didn't watch it end up coming around to the show and watching this finale. I don't know what some of these other numbers meant, but that's incredible, man. That your finale was able to, because normally, I mean, going back to my not Game of Thrones, but Walking Dead conversation, most of the time people are so. I found to be that people get more excited in the beginning than they are for sometimes the end, depending on how the show obviously shakes up. But
to the end, you're like people. A lot of people
check out exactly. So the fact that they had their numbers were not half, but it just said 90% higher than the premiere is good. That means word of mouth really worked for that show. So that's incredible, man. Which I think we'll leave that topic for the end as far as season 2 theories. But I guess kind of the next topic before we kind of wrap things up, probably another 20 minutes or so. I guess we've been praising the show. It's groundbreaking. It's phenomenal. We've never seen anything like it. But what didn't ultimately work for you, Shalon, in regards to did you come around to the anthology per week type of approach? Were there some questions that really stuck to you that you wish we would got to answer? Was there certain things that didn't resonate with you? Was there things that didn't ultimately work for you in regards to some negative things to say about the show, if there are any?
When it came down to the show, ultimately, the anthologic nature of it, I ended up enjoying it because it tied in towards the end. So I was like, okay, I'm cool with this.
Yeah.
But I felt like there was so much plot threads and plot points that were sprinkled throughout that we didn't really dive into for the most part. Mm-hmm. And I felt like they introduced a lot. There was a lot of things they dropped. There was a lot of hints at different things. Like I talked about the Lancaster thing earlier. I felt like the stakes could have been a little higher because ultimately I just felt like it was a petty white woman's. Essentially, the stakes were we have to stop this petty white woman from killing Tick and becoming immortal. And I felt like with the scope of the show and just what it means to the collective, the community, the Black people in general, like I wish it would have been more stakes as opposed to just dealing with one bad guy. Like we could have dived into the Sons of Adam. And I felt like there was a lot of homages, which I don't mind, but for the most part, I felt like a lot of them were throwaway for the whole, oh, this is cool, let's just sprinkle this here. Like, for example, in the I Am Hippolyta episode where they rode next to, what was her name? The woman who did the first cross-country Black woman on a motorcycle. We didn't dive into that. So it's like, I feel like that was just like a nod here. And we didn't really dive into the full scope of the racist society because we had Lancaster, but like overall, like they were able to move freely throughout the country. And I feel like the first episode, Sundown Town, with that sheriff and just that air of racism being there, we got it in the first episode, but throughout the other episodes, we just knew they existed in the racist America, but I never felt that air of racism after that first episode. And just some of the frustrating micro interactions between certain characters. The fact that a lot of the episodes did not really tie into the next, like the next episode, it was like a monster of the week format. Next episode, you're like, okay, after this new thing that we have to do, and no ramifications for what happened last episode. So I feel like it's the last two episodes, the last 2 to 3 episodes, which really
connected
onto each other.
Yeah.
Like the house episode, the voodoo, it's for like that house episode really was like, it was just there. Like it was the house episode. And like, I wish we would have spent more time on the house, the ramifications of the house, and just more like I wanted more connected issue, more meat to stick at, more mythology, more lore, more creatures. I would have loved more creatures and more, because the show, like we talked about it earlier. We talked about the who's really the monsters, the racist whites or the monsters, but ultimately we didn't get that many monsters in the show, and we didn't get a lot of racist white people in the show either. So it's like Like even the premise of the show is who's worse, monsters or racist, and we didn't get much of either of them. So it's like kind of hard to say who's worse. If you had the looming threat of monsters here and racists here, and every episode was dealing with one or the other, and showing how racism is worse than monsters, I felt like that would have been great. It would have added more tension, because most episodes were lacking tension, because ultimately everything they were doing was done leisurely, if you will. Like, oh, we have to go here, let's do it and take our time and squabble between us, more so than the actual narrative pushing them forward.
Yeah, I mean, so going back to that point you just mentioned with the monsters and racism, like Cthulhu, I can't even say it right now. Like, I thought that was going to be something that came up in the finale, right? We saw that it's a very Lovecraftian, one of the most popular, most well-known monsters from his novels. I thought that we were going to get a return of that, right? Yeah. You mentioned the lack of consequences from episode to the next. I think it worked for some episodes, but then there, like you just mentioned, other episodes, we just, like, for example, there's 3 missing white men in this predominantly white area, and the only black people on the neighborhood got no flack. I mean, we know Captain Lancaster couldn't come in the house because of the spell, but it was just like that. Nothing, no consequence there. There was a huge time gap from episode 2 to 3 where it was like a month. I think they said that Uncle George had died. So what have you guys been up to this last month of your uncle passing away and this prominent character in the family? So there were those just kind of logistical things, and then some people mention like the plot point issues that people had with like the metamorphosis episode where Ruby's just walking around like her skin's peeling off and she was able to go to the mall and walk back home without no one noticing her. Little things like that didn't really bother me, but there were some things that I think the story kind of wrote itself in the corner and just kind of either brushed it on the rug or just didn't bring it up again. Misha Green recently came out last week about how she handled Yahima in regards to not really fully understanding. We understand the motives of Montrose. He wanted to protect his son, so killing this magical creature kind of stops them, or at least puts a bump in the road, but they still could explore that character more. And you mentioned exploring things. I think there were just some. We talked about Lancaster earlier, the Sons of Adam, how they were able to just defeat this lodge that's been around for, we assume, hundreds of years, and they were able to be taken out in one episode, which honestly, when I think of episode 2, I still think it felt like a finale than it did like an episode of episode 2 of a show. Like, I still think that placement of the consequences of losing Uncle George so soon and how they handle that placement of that episode to me still kind of feels so weird. But I think the biggest thing to me, I still don't know how I feel about that anthology approach about, again, lack of consequences, lack of connective tissue until it boiled down to the finale. Like you mentioned, the last 3 episodes were so connected, but then it was like, well, the first 7 episodes, you guys didn't really connect everything. And that's why, kind of going full circle of my kind of grievances I had with the finale. It kind of felt rushed. Again, the ancestral plane, we learned that within 10 minutes. Tick and his mom, he hasn't seen his mom and we don't know how long, but that just happened so quickly.
Yeah, right. And
Letty learns the book of names and how to do spells by sitting there with Hattie. And we assume the conception of time doesn't really apply to that plane. So they could have been there for years, but it was only seconds in the real world. But I wish they would explain that. Meeting Titus for the first time just happened so fast. Montrose and Tick not having, I guess, a final goodbye. I would have loved that. Obviously Montrose thought that Tick was going to maybe live, but I would have loved if Tick would have hugged his dad one last time. So it was just little moments I wish we would have spent a little bit more time in. And I felt like it kind of just they had to rush it because it was only 10 episodes. So, but were you going to say something?
Well, I agree. Like a few moments they didn't really get a chance to breathe, if you will, and it's weird because, like you said, a lot of things were rushed. Not even in the finale, but all throughout the episodes, I feel like a lot of the episodes were rushed, and I'm like, I don't get the rushing of it because there is no there's no imminent danger at all throughout most of the episodes. There's no imminent pressure. Like I said earlier, if there are more monsters and more racists breathing down their necks, I could understand the rush. but
Yeah.
most of the pressure came from the majority of the characters arguing and bickering with each other. And it's like, I wish they would have had more time to breathe and let us enjoy like the smaller moments, and even in the horrifying moments, like let some of the horrifying moments breathe. Like, for example,
Yeah.
the finale, Letty fell off the tower and died, and 2 minutes later she's back. So
She's
like
back. Yeah.
like it should have died in the first 5 minutes. We would have been like, oh,
Yeah.
and that would have breathed. So when she showed up at the end, it would have been more like a release.
Yeah.
If you will. Montrose had the moment where he came out and he was like all happy and dancing. The very next episode, he's fighting with
Sammy. Yeah.
and it's like,
Yep.
Tick in the episode 1921, Tick was like, I'm done with you. I never want to talk to you again. 5 minutes later, him and his dad are crying in the alley. And it's like nothing got to breathe, if you will. Like, and we didn't learn much about Dora. And like they hinted at the relationship between Dora, George, and Montrose. And we didn't get too much into that. And even the moment where Tick says, I got you, kid. Right? And that's a moment. It didn't breathe because they had to go.
It happened so quickly. Yeah. I think that to your point, man, things kind of did, unfortunately, kind of felt rushed. Like, for example, you just mentioned if we would have set in the scene. So we obviously saw the Hippolyta, which, by the way, we think she's just all powerful being, but obviously she was like, I can't hold it on much longer. She's like, well, I thought you had, like, I don't know. I felt like if they would have put like a timeline on that, like if it was like a matter of like the sundown town, if we don't get the book of names by sundown, the Shagar, the town's going to come to kill us. It would have felt, and plus everyone brings up Letty, like literally taking her time walking, which
I was yelling at the screen like, can you hurry the fuck up?
I appreciated that scene just because of what she just went through, seeing Hattie that's a traumatic thing, seeing someone burn right in front of you. And she literally walked through the fire. So I think it was kind of like symbolizing what she just went through. But at the same time, it's like, hurry your ass up. Like, you are a track star. We see how fast you are. We need to run into this portal. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think there was a sense of just things were a little rushed at times. Not a lot through episode, but in pivotal moments, it stood out enough that it was kind of rushed. And it kind of felt like they were on a ticking time clock for unnecessary reasons, like you just mentioned. It just like they were rushing to get past certain these points. So hopefully, if we get a season 2, they either give us maybe first episode's an hour and a half, second, the finale is an hour and a half, or they give us maybe more than 10 episodes, but hopefully they kind of plan it out more where it doesn't feel like we're rushing past some pivotal moments.
I want to add, to piggyback off what you said.
Yeah.
My favorite episode throughout this entire show was episode 1 because of, like you said, the tension was there. The sundown town, the sun was setting, like the stakes were there. And like,
felt it. Yep.
And again, it did everything we talked about. It let moments breathe. Like when they were in the diner and they walked in there, you could feel like the racist people, like the guy sat there and they watched the black people walk in. And that moment breathe. And we saw Letty go in the back and eavesdrop. Like, and then you had the pressure of we have to get out of here. You had monsters. You had racism. Everything that the show promised, and even the stuff they didn't promise, like the poems in the background and everything. Yeah. All episode 1 was the best episode to me because it did everything that Lovecraft Country was about in one episode, and it felt like they let the things breathe. There was tension, like you said. We have a time limit, so we need to rush right now. And that was the only time in any of the episodes that my heart was racing. Like I knew they were going to survive because they're the main characters, and I knew they were going to survive, them being the main characters, and I'm still palpitating. It's like, hey, you're doing something right. It's working.
Yeah, Mona Lisa Williams says 14, 16. I don't know if we need that many episodes, because then we're talking about Flash, where it's almost like homework. You got like so many episodes. But no, maybe 11. A special episode. Euphoria's having a Christmas episode later this year.
Is it Euphoria, one in Christmas and one like right after?
Yeah, I think so, which I cannot wait for.
I love Euphoria.
So, I mean, you guys heard, we praised the show. We talked about the things that really kind of bothered us. Something I did forget to mention earlier, I want to kind of go back to, a lot of you guys talked about it earlier, but Shalon, did you have your favorite half of the season? Was it more the first or the second in regards to just narratively speaking? Which was your favorite half of this show?
Narratively speaking, I'm I think the second half was better than the first. But if I found my like, most of
Watchmen, Lovecraft's crossover.
it could work. I mean, if they
Yeah,
Virgin 1921, right?
yeah.
Um,
But yeah, what were you saying?
most of my favorite episodes, like most of the episodes, most of the better episodes were the second half. But I felt like I enjoyed the first half episodes more. For example, my favorite episode was episode 1. We raved about the Indiana Jones episode. Um, we had the house episode with Letty cementing her, with Journey cementing her Emmy nomination, and like as individual episodes, they're great. But in the overall narrative of it all, as like you said, narratively speaking, the latter half, they even started connecting to one another at one point. Like for example, episodes from episode 6 through 10, they're all connected in some way, shape, or form. While the first 5 didn't really connect, but I found myself enjoying them more. My favorite episodes there, the Indiana Jones episode. My favorite scene is still when Montrose says,
Jerry
Jesse
Lewis,
Owens,
Jesse Owens, me, yeah.
right? When he dug his way out and he freed himself and he turned around there, he was like, "What the fuck are you guys doing here?" Like there were these moments that were more enjoyable nuggets in the first half, but as a show, as a narrative, as script writing, as a story, the second half was better. But I enjoyed the first half's single episodes more.
Yeah, I think I gotta agree with you, man. I think collectively, the second half just kind of collectively kind of pulled things together. But then when I look at the first few of the first half, whether it be episode 1, episode 3, episode 4 and 5, I think, yeah, like you said, entertainment wise and just really being a crowd pleaser. I thought that the first half was just I guess more entertaining,
Yes.
if we're gonna say that, and then the second half was a little bit more emotionally gratifying and compelling because everything starts to come together. I mean, they are almost mirror each other in regards to, we lost Uncle George episode 2, we lost Tick in the second half. We get that kind of solo episode 4 with the Indiana Jones. We get the Gia episode 6. So they almost kind of have similar tones and stories, but I think collectively, narratively,
Gia episode would have been like episode 5 or something. Or I would have taken the first half by a landslide.
Yeah, same, man. Same, but I think it all kind of ties together for, just like I said, a really good season 1, and which leads us to the final topic, guys. Let us know if you have any other comments, concerns, if you guys want to do any super chats, if you guys want to have any theories. Last topic, man. Theories for a season 2, which hasn't been announced yet, which still kind of baffles me. It's not a Watchmen situation. Well, Damien Lindelof said he will not come back, but if he does, I don't know if he will, but I don't think he will. I don't think we'll ever see a season 2 of Watchmen. But Shalon, man, if we do get a season 2, which Jay had a really good theory about season 2, but what do you think a season 2 will look like if we get a season 2? And let everyone in the chat let us know your theories as well.
If in season 2 they continue with the same storyline with the other Sons of Adam houses or branches, I think that Tick will be back to finish his Jesus transformation, because he did rise after a few days. And even at the end, you saw it was the women carrying him, just like with Jesus. It was his mom and Mary Magdalene carrying Jesus to the tomb, and he ultimately came back. I feel like Tick will be back. I think we're going to spend more time with Dee's transformation, her evolution as a person. It could focus more so on a different time. Let's say Tick does come back years later or 3 days later, whatever, and he goes through space and time. Because ultimately he did say something to Montrose in the last episode. He's like, because Tick, he resigned to his death, but there was still some, we don't know, because that's just one possibility. I'm dying, and there exist multiple possibilities. So I'm like, you don't say something like that and not use it, because they've been going on about multiple possibilities and multiple timelines for a few episodes now. So that exists, and we know D has to grow up, and the Shoggoth is there. And again, like you said this earlier in the video, the live stream, that Black people have the book of names and they have magic, but we know how that can get, and then the infighting could happen. And we've seen Montrose and Letty bump heads a few times, so we could see that happening. We've seen Ruby gets seduced by a white person, and we could see other people get seduced for the book, and they could realistically undo everything that has been done, or like a council from another universe can be like,
Right.
okay, this universe, they shut out white people from magic, but we need that to be we need that to happen. So
Yeah.
I could see them going down that path. I'm thinking of more of a alternate timeline, multiversal type thing, because once you get there, you go down that path. But then that's tricky, because once you start getting to timelines and time periods, you can become too corny or too convoluted. So it's kind of
yeah, man. Whenever you implement timeline or time travel, it can definitely get messy unless you're dark, because they that definitely had a satisfying conclusion to their story. But as far as the season 2, I think definitely, we talked about it earlier, Dee will have to be the lead. Well, she doesn't have to be, but I would hope that Dee is the lead character moving forward, whether they age her up or we get her in the past and her in the future, and it's a multiple different, or like we're going back in time and seeing the future, the present day of Dee and George being grown up. I think that they would be the next generation of characters to follow. You talked about it. We don't know what Tick saw in that portal. He said that there was a bunch of white people rioting, and he got the book, saw his son's name. But what else happened before he was pulled from the portal? How long was he in that portal? What else did he see? What other alternative versions of himself? Because I always think, again, going back to, the biggest movie of last year, Endgame, they plucked Thanos, or Thanos himself came from 2014, another, an alternate timeline, to come into the Avengers 2023 timeline. So I am to assume that can happen again, that one of those lodges, one of the, the white people are like, we've had enough. We want our magic back. We want to take it back, so they can somehow, some way of an Ori of sorts, or attack the house of Dee, or seduce, someone in the house and become an ally of sorts, and get in the house and take the Ori and go on a timeline and take the book of names from another timeline and do this all over again. So, I mean, there is a lot. And then again, of course, Ruby's still alive, or maybe not. And again, you mentioned Tick coming back. So there is a lot of potential things to do. And I don't want to leave it out, because I know Jay had brought something up that I thought was really interesting. He says something about the going into like the civil rights movement and the man and the first on the moon. I think that would be pretty. Because I mean, again, yeah, I mean, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X having that conversation. Where was it? There was a really good comment that he put in there that I think would be really fascinating. And again, guys, we got 56 people in chat. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, throwing in some incredible comments, super chats, thumbs up to the video, all that great stuff. We can't thank you guys enough for tuning in tonight. And make sure you guys check out Shalon's channel. All his information is in the link. Give him a subscribe, I should say, because he is incredible. So Jay has said the 60s, the civil rights, Vietnam War, Race to the Moon. Yeah, I mean, there's so much potential stuff there with all those things you just mentioned, Jay. Again, whether it be Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, whether it be, like you just said, the Vietnam War, whether it be the Race to the Moon, and who knows what's on the moon, right? It could be another book of names. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that they can do. And then hell, they can even push it to the 70s, to the 80s, to the 90s, or modern time. I mean, I think I listened to that. Did you ever listen to the podcast after the episodes with the HBO?
I've listened to a few of them, not a lot of them. I've listened to the one after the 3rd episode. I've listened to the one after the 5th. I didn't listen to all of them.
They were nice episodes. They didn't really like give us straight up answers. It was just more or less like where the writers were coming from and just kind of explaining the characters and stuff, but not like saying, no, this is the answer to this question. It was just like it was a good conversation, but it didn't really give us answers.
That's why I didn't really get into it. Cause I'm like, I want to know about the story and not more so about the creation of the story.
Right. Yeah. I think that could have been a really good opportunity if they would have did something. The one thing that I think Walking Dead did do good at was every Sunday after Walking Dead, I had to watch Talking Dead. That was like my second favorite show. And they had the characters on the show, they had the writers, and they talked about the episode and gave us and then what it ended up doing is, after the Talking Dead, the episode played again, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Right. Oh, that. So I thought that would have been really cool if HBO would have had like a talk show after the episode. But of course, they have like their time slots, and there was, I think, Oliver's show was on the next, so they couldn't have that slot. But
the podcast could I was expecting the podcast to be that actually, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I listened to the
Did you
podcast.
listen to Watchmen? The podcast on Watchmen?
Yes.
That was very insightful to me.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And I've
Yeah.
listened, and I felt like more of the fan podcasts like mine or Lovecraft Crossing or Safe Negro, like they got into the episodes more so. But again, the fans aren't the creators, so you don't actually have a
Yeah.
definite answer, just theories. But if the writer room is telling you this is what it is and this is why, and not this is why we did this, it's more
Yeah.
so like I have an appreciation for how and why you came up with certain things.
Yeah.
But I would love to be more about what this is the definitive why, and this is why it's done, and this is our thoughts as to why this is this. Would have been a much more enjoyable podcast.
Right. 100%, man. And Mickey brings up save both John and Bobby from the Kennedy's family, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting to kind of, if they try to, do you watch Umbrella Academy?
Yes.
So like how Diego was trying to save this, Kennedy throughout the entire season. And that shows, I love Umbrella Academy, but that could be something that she says to Christina, you guys will never learn. So it's interesting that you can take that in two ways. She's directly talking to Christina in regards to white people will never learn about their power and overpowering black people, or D is just metaphorically speaking, like we never learned. So like she had to kill Christina because her family never learned by killing. She read the book in the car, so she saw the outcome. So she's just like, they never learn. They can never end this cycle of hate. So she took it upon herself to kill Christina. So I mean, there is a lot of kind of things they can do with D having this hatred. She might stop the assassination from Martin Luther King. She might stop Malcolm X dying. She might stop these pivotal things from happening from this time traveling that she has now. And that can really mess up the timeline potentially, or change the dynamic of how black people, that's what I was actually thinking that was going to happen. They were going to go back in time and change the shift of like humanity in regards to how black people perceive and how white people are perceiving the world. But maybe that's where season 2 comes in. D is on a blood path of making things right in her eyes. And so who said, I think someone, I couldn't remember where I said this, where we see the beginnings of a villain in D potentially.
Oh,
D has that hatred. She has the death of her father, the death of her best friend, losing her mother when she. Yeah, we're seeing the origins of the big bad, which could be D. That would be something interesting to kind of tackle in a potential.
That would be great, actually.
Yeah, bring Obama becoming president. Yeah, that could be.
Go into that.
Yeah, or D. I don't know, take out Trump or something, or have him not be part. Have him not, be the president. They said, look, I thought it was great. They did more in depth about the show and the theories behind the episode. Yeah. Game of Thrones had the inside. Yeah, I think it was a missed opportunity to kind of dive deeper into some of those answers that they could have did for a talk show. Binge watching the series after finale put me to peace with the ending. Cool. Alrighty, guys. So we touched on the characters. We broke down all the characters, the heroes, the villains, our theories about season 2, our pros, our cons about season 1. And Shalom, man, we did it, man. This has been an incredible journey breaking down this show. You covered it on your channel incredibly with your In and Explains, your breakdowns of the episode. We covered it pretty extensively on Movie Files, and it's been a journey, man. It's been a ride, a journey. I don't think I wouldn't say it's going to be really interesting. I think we talked about last week. We're going to have to do some type of live stream about ranking like our favorite shows of this year. I don't know where this show lands for me right now, just off top, but it's definitely in my top favorite shows of this year for sure. Top. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely, and probably in my top 5. If I'm being honest. And that might even go up higher after a rewatch. But final thoughts, man, and everyone in the chat. Again, if you guys have any final super chats, comments, concerns, theories, let us know before we head out here. But Shalom, man, final thoughts on Lovecraft and just kind of overall, man, your experience with this show.
Lovecraft did everything that I needed to do as a show. While we have moments that we liked, we have critiques. Like you really, the critiques isn't to say that we didn't like the show. Like if anything that you enjoy, anything that you like, you're gonna have some critiques about it. Nothing's perfect.
100%. Yeah.
But overall, it did do everything it needed to do. It did bring to light a lot of things. And because the way history school and books are set up, we don't get to learn things. So shows like this that actually teach us certain things. Like a lot of people had no idea what a sundown town was. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that got brought up to light. The Emmett
Bro,
Till.
I met some people that didn't even know who Emmett Till was.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen that. Like, I've seen you. Like if you go on Twitter, you'll see that. And it's like they brought that to light. I love the fact that it was able to make sci-fi concepts to the masses. For example, the multiverse and opening portals, and
Mm-hmm.
that came to light. We also had now we didn't really get into Cthulhu and the cosmic horror aspect, but
Right.
that was a part of it. It went global with the Kumiho and that mythology, and it did like it was entertaining. It was informative. It was enjoyable. It brought people together every Sunday night. It opened discussion, dialogue. It taught people something new, and hopefully shows more shows like. And it paved the way to show that you can do this. You can have black leads. You can have
Yeah.
positive black messaging, empowering messages. Um, it didn't stick to the typical action star male bravado. Tick is the main character. He's gonna save the day type of scene where you have I Am Hippolyta, which is an episode that
Mm-hmm.
so many people loved because so many people could relate, and it's letting women know that because as a society we tend to value women more so when they are younger and in their physical prime, if you will, and then kind of just like after that you forget about it. But it shows you like your life isn't over. It's never too late to start all over. It took black homosexuality in Montrose, and it showed that black homosexuality doesn't necessarily have to be exaggerated or effeminate. Like Montrose can still be like Montrose and still
Mm-hmm.
gay, and that's okay. And that's it showed the different aspects. Because usually on TV shows you'll have like the over eccentric kind of out there type, and you'll have like certain body types. You'll have them either be like
Mm-hmm.
heavy set, or you'll have them be like chiseled and good looking. But then
Mm-hmm.
you have someone like Michael K. Williams who can be complex, who can struggle with it, and he can still want to have a son and want to have a family and be married. You have that aspect of it. It showed little black girls that you don't have to be defined by your environment with Dee and her episode with Jigabobo.
Right.
And as a
Right.
black girl, you can be angry, you can grieve, you can get upset, and you can fight your demons, be mad at your mom for leaving you.
Yeah.
Um, it tapped into Ruby's character. For as much as some people did not like Ruby and her story, her character arc, that is
Yeah.
a very real thing that happens with it showed the dichotomy between how you could say Letty is more of a light skin, smaller frame, more passable, like
Mm-hmm.
it showed the distinction between colorisms, and then you have like not all black people are treated the same. Ruby's more heavy set, she's darker, and we got to look at that in her episode and see how Tamara was given the job on a whim, even though Ruby was more qualified than the actual manager,
She's
but
more educated.
because of her outward appearance,
Yeah.
that she wouldn't have got the job, and it shows that that is not necessarily right, and that's not indicative, and you could still be sexy and sensual. Like Ruby had like that sexy with William, like she was
Mm-hmm.
sensual, and it showed
Yeah.
that the difference between how it is to be white for a day and just getting free ice cream and getting to walk around, people move out your way.
Yeah.
We showed how when we went to um Daegu and how Tick left there and how he went somewhere else to finally be away from his demons, and you've seen that he went to Korea, but even we had that one Korean soldier who's not accepted in America for being Korean and not
Yeah.
accepted in Korea because he's from America. And there's so much conversation, so much things to explore that this show did, and it gave us. And it's not like you said earlier, it's not beating you over the head. Like
Yeah.
these are just like things that are happening. These are natural characters and human characters, and these are scenarios that actually happen. You could see these it felt like a lived in world, like these characters were real and more fleshed out,
Yeah.
while giving us action, while giving us history, while giving us magic, time travel, horror. Like, name a genre, this show touched upon it, and it was just, I really enjoyed this. I love this show.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly, man. I think again, this show was groundbreaking. This show told so many, educated people, like we talked about, that some things that people didn't know, and hopefully they took that information, learned some information from it, and learned to do better as a society. And I think this show kind of puts a mirror in front of society in regards to, again, this is really interesting that this show in 1950s Jim Crow era, how many parallels there are to today's
Right.
society.
Yeah. Right.
And it's just really wild to see that we really haven't moved the needle that much. But hopefully a show like this puts things in perspective, right? And understand, you know, Black anger. It understands generational anger, understands, where we see ourselves in society and things of that nature. And I think Misha Green did a good job of doing that. And yes, there's flaws, there's negative things, from a show, from a narrative perspective. But I think at the end of the day, the show really moved the needle and pushed the narrative and had the conversation to be had, continuing that torch, that passing that baton that Watchmen had and Lovecraft had. And I'm looking forward to whatever HBO gives us next. Hopefully it's a season 2, or something else entirely with Misha Green and crew. So it was powerful. It was incredible. It was incredible to see these Black creators behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, or in front of the camera, I should say. And I think this will be something that will be forever remembered, man. Again, I know a lot of people, it didn't work for some people, and it's understandable, but for me, and as for you as well, and a lot of people in the chat, it was a powerful show. Every single week, someone has said it. Every what Martina says, I was moved each episode. The music was interesting. Yeah, the music sometimes didn't work for me, but that's another conversation. The poetry, the recorded speeches selected was great. This was a great piece of art in many levels, and I 100% agree with you. The spoken poems were incredibly powerful. Again, I go back to one of the most powerful moments I've seen of anything, TV, movies, was Hattie dying and protecting her future family versus her immediate family. And that sacrifice that she did for her family was really kind of moved me. So just on an emotional level, being a Black man in America, it hit me. On an entertainment level, it hit me. A horror fan, sci-fi fan, drama. I love, good drama. I love character payoffs. The show was great, man. This show was great, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, man, if you guys don't have anything else from me and Shalon, I think we're gonna let me just read off a couple of these last comments. Human characters, yes, and that's another thing. They were flawed. All of our heroes from top to bottom were flawed. Even, Hippolyta, she left her daughter. Letty was selfish at points, right? Tick, we know he had his moments. Every character was flawed. They were human characters, like Nick said. Even with some of the monsters and demons. I loved how Tick's mother loved both brothers. Yeah, that was
That was an entanglement.
an unbreakable bond, as Montrose said. I don't know what kind of bond that is, but hey, what Nick say, it was she had a hot girl summer. So I mean, Dora, hey, let's see. Mickey says maybe Dee could start to be vengeful, but then someone comes to save her. Yeah, maybe her mom, maybe Tick. Maybe she has to go to the ancestral plane, maybe, to learn to take that hate away. What do you guys think in the direction of narrative to go? More to come. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier, Lawrence. Definitely check out the replay, my friend. Jay says, learn to love yourself. Yeah, learn to love you. Yes, that is so. You can't treat other people right if you don't know how to treat yourself right. So treat yourself with love, and hopefully you can spread that to others. Ruby is beautiful. Oh yeah, Wumi Umshaku is. I mean, all the women, like you mentioned earlier, Shalon, Anta Ellis, beautiful Black woman in her, older age, but she was incredibly beautiful and incredibly powerful. Wumi Mushaku. I mean, all the women in the show were just so powerful and just well actors. So I mean, yeah, it was great to see. Ruby was definitely beautiful. The fashion was great. I hope people read the books more after the show. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check out that book for sure. Because I find it so funny that a white man told this story, and that's always a funny thing to see. What's great is starts conversation and race while entertaining the masses. Very much true, Mona Lisa. I would love to see them going into the time and protects the women's rights, Black rights, gay rights anymore. That would be a really big show. A lot of interesting conversations. Great discussion, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Dora is a secret Targaryen, which that's funny. Which I can't wait for the House of Dragons. That's going to be
It's gonna
a
be
fun show.
yeah.
It's going to be epic. This was a great discussion, a pleasure, and such a knowledgeable, insightful people in the comments. Yeah, KB, yeah, definitely 100%. Everyone that joined in tonight, thank you so much. Shalom, man, what's next on your plate, man? What's the next show, the next piece of content you got ready for the people, man?
Right now, I'm watching this anime called Blood of Zeus coming on Netflix.
Nice.
And I just finished a show called Barbarians last night. Well, this morning because I stayed up all night watching it. So it's not piece of content worthy. So right now I don't know yet because I had a project I was doing on Baby Boy. I got stumped halfway through, so I put that in the back burner.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure.
Hey, I'm pretty sure, man. You're super creative. I'm sure that you'll have something that's going to give us some things to enjoy, man. So I guess I'll just let you again, if you want to tell the people where they can find you, what's on your channel now that they can watch and enjoy, and all that great stuff, man. If you want to go ahead and have an outro, man.
Okay. Well, guys, you guys can find me on YouTube at The Binge Zone. You guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at The Binge Zone, and my podcast, The Magical Negro Podcast. And that podcast is usually, think of it as like an accompanying podcast to whatever video I do. Because, for example, YouTube does a lot of things you can't really talk about because of demonetization, and you can't really get into certain aspects of certain racial topics or whatever the deep crux of any show is about. You can't really get into it on YouTube. So check the podcast out. I have different guests every week, and we talk about more in depth about some concepts. Like sometimes you might see a video that's like 15-20 minutes long, and Elliot can attest to this. You might have recorded for like an hour, but you have to cut so much things out to constraint. And the podcast is really unfiltered, and you talk about pretty much all the shows I cover are on there. For example, I just talk Borat and just some of the stuff that you can't get into because of politics and just how YouTube works. So you can find me there on the Magical Negro Podcast on Spotify, Apple, everywhere you get a podcast. Again, I'm at the Binge Zone YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And thanks for having me on here, Elliot. And guys, definitely check out my channel. And me and Elliot will be doing more collaborations. We're going to do an end of the year list and things like that. So stay tuned.
No doubt, man. Definitely more collaborations in the future. I've been a fan of your content for a while and couldn't be more happier to be able to talk about this show with you these last few weeks with these live streams. So thank you so much for giving me your time, man. And like Shalon said, man, check out his podcast, check out his YouTube channel, follow him on his social media accounts. All that stuff is in the link below, guys. And then as far as things to look forward to here at Movie Files, before we head out, we got Triborough Gigolo. What's up, man? Glad you were able to stop by. Mike says final scene reminded him of Marvel Comics Moon Girl. I'm not too familiar with that comic, but Shalon, have you ever read Moon Girl?
Moon Girl is, I think, the top 3 smartest person in Marvel Comics. She's a little black girl. She rivals Reed Richards and Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom as the 3 smartest characters in all the Marvel comic book universe.
Nice. I have to do some research and check it out. I would imagine that maybe that's some character we can look forward to in the future of the MCU. KB says third day. Yeah, I actually covered that on my channel, KB, and definitely recommend that show for anybody that loves some good kind of Wicker Man, Midsummer vibes, cult vibes. Really good show on HBO. Yep. Really good show. So yeah, guys. I think that's it. I think that's all. So as far as the things to look forward to, I watched the first episode of The Undoing, the new Nicole Kidman show that's going to be, I guess, replacing Lovecraft Country temporarily for the next couple weeks. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We got The Mandalorian coming up next week, which I'm excited for.
Oh yeah, I'll be covering that too. Thanks for reminding me. I will be covering Mandalorian.
Oh yeah. Mando's back, baby Yoda. So that's something to look forward to. Of course, your standard movie reviews. We got a couple movies dropping this week. Come Play, Spell, Craft Legacy, and a couple Wumi Mushaku's film The House, or his house is coming out. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, guys, like we've been saying, make sure you subscribe to both of our channels, follow us on our social media accounts, follow and subscribe, and leave Shalon a ranking or a thumbs up on his podcast. Support that content. Again, guys, it has been an incredible journey. talking about the show. Can't wait to talk about more shows. Keep an eye out for my top 10 episodes coming on my channel tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, I'll definitely check.
It was a fun video for sure. So hope you guys enjoyed that. But again, from the bottom, top, middle, all parts of my heart, guys, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for supporting the content. And we will see you guys on the next video. And Shalon, don't head out yet. I want to chat with you before you head out, man. So you guys take care. Have a great weekend. Have a great day.
Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves.
We'll see you guys in the next video.